Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We're going to go ahead and wait a few minutes, give some folks a chance to, I see all the participants logging in right now. So we'll give everyone a chance to get logged in here, and then we'll get started here momentarily with today's webinar, part of our our summer camp series as we make our way through summer. Last day of July here, July 31st. Good morning to those of you in the Western U.S., Mountain Time Zone, Pacific Time Zone. Good afternoon to those of you in the Central Eastern Time Zone. It's 11 o'clock Mountain Time here. I'm coming to you live from Boulder, Colorado, and I'll be introducing my guest panelists here momentarily as we get underway, but we'll just give it about 30 more seconds. I still see people logging into the webinar, and we'll get underway. So good morning and good afternoon. My name is David Waugh. I am with Managed Methods, and again, I'm coming to you live today from outside of Boulder, Colorado, and we're going to be talking about some proactive strategies and suggestions, tips and tricks for the upcoming school year, and just get insights from some of your peers that are in the trenches with you in the technology leadership roles in school districts. Before we get underway, a couple housekeeping items, of course, as you can see here on the screen. Yes, this webinar is being recorded. You'll receive a link. All people that register for the webinar, attend to the webinar, you'll receive a link usually within 24 hours. It depends on how fast Zoom gets the transcript and everything processed. Everyone is muted. So if you have any questions for myself or our panelists or comments you want to share with your peers out there, put it into the chat or Q&A panel. And we will do our best to address questions as we go on throughout the summer. So we'll go ahead and dive in and start getting into it. By way of introduction, again, my name is David Waugh. I am with Managed Methods. Those of you that have attended our webinars in the past, you recognize me. I'm cheating today. I've got a hat on. Sam, there you go. I'll join you. You and I can be in the same hair club now. I'll take the hat off.
I appreciate that.
The organization that I'm part of, Managed Methods, we're excited to continue these webinars and be a part of your daily lives and what's happening out there in your districts. So we'll go ahead and continue on here. But as we get underway, we're gonna talk a little bit about we've inserted this conversation about the FCC Cybersecurity Pilot Program just kind of as a community service announcement. A lot of you may have heard of this. A lot of you have heard rumblings about it. We'll talk a little bit about that and then get our take from our panelists, and then we'll jump into the conversation with our panelists about some of the things they're working on, from cybersecurity and safety to preparing for the upcoming school year, and then we'll get into some Q&A. So let's first start out by doing some introductions. So I've already introduced myself. Again, my name is David. I'm with Managed Methods. A lot of you in the audience already know who I am, but if you haven't met me before, I've been here since the beginning. One of the original team members of Managed Methods. I'm out there on the road a lot, presenting at conferences. And for those of you who have not met before, hello, and hopefully have an opportunity to have a conversation with you down the road. I'd like to allow now my two guests to introduce themselves. Why don't we just, Robert, I'll start with you, and then Sam, you go. So Robert?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Robert Batson. I'm Technology Director at Tahlequah Public Schools. We're a mid-sized district, about 3,600 students. I've been Tech Director probably 10 years, in technology 20, all of it with Tahlequah. We are a district that uses Microsoft 365 and Google Workspace, or kind of a little bit of a hybrid there. We do iPads for kindergarten through first grade, and then Chromebooks for second through 12th grade. And I think that pretty much wraps up what we're doing here.
Gotcha. And Tahlequah is in Oklahoma.
Correct. Sorry. Yeah. Tahlequah, Oklahoma.
Yes.
I knew that.
Yeah.
My name is Samuel Hoch, Technology Director for Catoosa Public Schools. We are about half the size of the district as Tahlequah. We're about 1,800, 1,900 students. We are very similar to what Robert was saying. We do, for the littles, basically pre-K through second grade, we do iPads. And then the 3rd through 12th, we do Chromebooks. And we are Google pretty much all the way. And yeah, I'll stop there.
Fun. Well, it just so happened to be we're doing the Oklahoma tour today. We have we have customers across the entire country and Canada and even international. But it just so happened that when we were getting this webinar set up, it happened to be that the two of you gentlemen chimed in and jumped on, so we appreciate it, and we'll have a little Oklahoma powwow today. So before we kind of get into our conversation, we were briefly talking about this before we kind of jumped on air. There's been a lot of buzz, a lot of talk about the FCC Cybersecurity Pilot Program for schools and libraries that was announced earlier in the summer. So we're not going to spend the whole event obviously talking about this, but it was something we felt we should insert just because there's been a lot of talk about it. I've traveled the last 2 months to conferences, not only doing ISTE right here in my backyard when ISTE was held earlier in June in downtown Denver, about 20 miles or so odd down the road from here. But then I've been in states like Texas, I've been in Illinois, I've been in Missouri, been in California, and there's been a lot of talk about this program. And the first thing is this is from the FCC, but it has nothing to do with E-rate. So it's completely separate from E-rate. It's an entirely different program. It's funded separately, it's qualified separately, it's different application process, etc. The short of it is it's a $200 million pool of funds to eligible K-12 school districts and libraries that's going to be allocated over 3 years. It's not a program where, oh, well, I'll see how it goes this year and then maybe I'll apply next year. No, there's going to be one application process, one application window that's going to open up sometime this fall. And then if you're awarded the money, if you're selected in this program, you will get the money for 3 years. And that money, as you see in the bold letters there, kind of in the middle, it's an allocation of $13.60 per student per year, which if you do that math comes out to $40.80 per kiddo over the course of that 3-year program. Again, it's a one-time application process that's going to open up sometime this fall. There is going to be more information put out about this soon. In fact, USAC just announced that they're going to be having a training webinar next Tuesday, August 6th, and the link will be provided here in this webinar, in the slide deck as we put it out after the webinar. And I'll ask my team members behind the scenes to maybe post it in the chat to all attendees so that people right away can get the link to register for this upcoming USAC webinar. The hope is, and I don't know for a fact, but the hope is that the FCC will have given USAC all the information about the application process that will be coming out next week, because they're going to have to obviously get things moving rather quickly if they want to get this program rolling. In addition, obviously, we here at Managed Methods have been following this very closely, like lots of vendors in the space. We've put together a nice pilot program pre-application checklist. You can go ahead and scan that QR code right now and get that. We'll also pop that link into the chat. Of course, everyone will get a copy of this presentation, but we'll be continually updating the material that we have out there as soon as we hear more from FCC and USAC. So right now we've got in this nice checklist all the information that's been publicly made available from the FCC and USAC about this pilot program. Again, if you want to learn more, I would highly encourage you to register and sign up for the webinar next Tuesday, in which USAC will be hopefully, unveiling more details about this pilot program. The eligible service list is pretty extensive. And one of the things that a lot of the experts at the conferences I've been at And what we're hearing from the FCC and USAC, they're looking for a pretty broad paintbrush, if you would, paintbrush stroke across the eligible service list. So if you go out to the FCC's website, you look at our checklist, you'll see that everything from cloud application monitoring, like we're going to talk about today, content filtering, endpoint protection, managed services on the endpoint, MDR, all that kind of stuff. It's a very, very expansive eligible service list, and they're highly encouraging people to be creative in the projects they're trying to build. Don't just go out and say, hey, I want to get the next gen, advanced gen portion of my firewall covered. Look at all the things that you can get. Now, quick note, if you, again, this is separate from E-rate. So if you're currently an E-rate participant, it doesn't matter. If you're not currently an E-rate participant, it doesn't matter. You have to meet certain eligibility requirements, but it's completely independent of E-rate. So it is a separate program, and highly encourage everyone to check it out. With that said, I'll real quick, before we came on air, Sam, Robert, we kind of talked about this. I guess my first question, do you both participate in E-rate?
Go ahead, Robert. Sorry.
Yeah, we of course we participate in E-rate, so I mean this is an exciting thing to look at.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're doing the E-rate stuff already, and Sam, you're doing it as well?
Yep, doing E-rate, and with the what you described here and what we were talking about earlier, I too am excited to get this information and hopefully take part in it.
Yeah, well, I mean, at bare minimum, as we kind of talked about off air before we came online here with the meeting, it's a start in the right direction. Everybody, for a long time, people have been clamoring that E-rate, is pretty out of date, needs to be overhauled and advanced to meet the needs of advanced cyber threats and helping districts and libraries and whatnot protect themselves. So I think this is a way for the FCC to kind of, if you would, do a test and determine, hey, what are the things that people are asking for? What are some of the additional things that are out there?
Right.
It's I'm not sure why 3 years. Why not maybe just do it as a 1 year program or even a 2 year, but 3 years, that's certainly, it's a chunk of money. So, and I think everyone would probably agree. Schools can always use some more funding for their technology departments. All right, well, let's jump in. And why is it that this FCC Cybersecurity Pilot Program is important? It's because of these types of things. The headlines. You can't. I mean, it almost seems like everyone's numb to it now. Our world we live in now. Cyber attacks and data breaches and data loss and ransomware and all of that, just we seem to be numb to it now because it's become accepted as the norm. It's just going to happen. Everybody's expecting. It's constantly. I listen to experts and people talk at conferences and things I go to, and you hear it's not if, it's when, is the mentality that everyone seems to have. And when you stop and look at it over the last several years, no school is safe. IT departments, all have to deal with this. And I was attended a webinar earlier in the week from our good friends at the K-12-6 and Doug Levin and his organization. They made famous this map years ago, and I'm not even sure if Doug still updates it. I know it. I think it gets updated once in a while. It's the cybersecurity incident map that they've been tracking publicly disclosed events across the country. And, obviously, Sam, Robert, Oklahoma's on the map. Everyone's on the map. I mean, I think even South Dakota and North Dakota have a couple pins up there, even though it's kind of sparse.
I need to transfer to South Dakota.
I know.
Yeah,
That's what I'm thinking.
I think South Dakota's got one pin up there, but Wyoming's got one too. So, I mean, everybody's going to have a pin. The challenge is, again, this is why that FCC program, I think, is important for people to look into. It's why we exist as a vendor. It's why we're having this conversation today. These types of headlines, these types of pins on the map, the new breed of cyber attacks that are happening, like, late last fall, a whole new breed of cyber attacks, hit organizations in education, like the Singularity MD attack that was a kind of a new breed of phishing and or backdoor cyber theft that hit many districts. It hit Clark County, Las Vegas. It hit Long Beach, California. It hit my home district right here in Colorado of Jeffco, where my own children go. And so these types of new ways that threat actors are getting in the door created a whole lot of stir, and it just continues to expand this conversation that unfortunately we have to have every day. And again, I go back to why this FCC program is timely and desperately needed. Maybe 200 million is not a lot of money to go around when you look at all public schools and libraries, but it's a start in the right direction. And when you talk about these most recent breed of attacks that happened in the past 6 months against Clark County, Jeffco, Long Beach, and others, these were, new approaches that a lot of people hadn't even thought of or seen before. I know when I present at conferences, we emphasize all the time that you need to make sure you have a multi-layered cybersecurity safety protocol, and that you're looking at protecting all the layers, and not just focusing in on, say, infrastructure or just the network. You have to look at endpoints, you have to look at cloud apps, you have to look at email, you have to look at file shares. And this new breed of attacks that happened through this group Singularity MD, and then later many copycat groups, they were compromising student accounts and then doing lateral phishing and hacking through shared drives and shared groups, and coming in, in non-traditional ways that many of these other layers maybe don't always look at. So that's why it's important. You have to look at a multi-layered approach. Obviously, we here at Managed Methods have been promoting this for a long time. We play at both the cloud layer as well as the filtering layer and the endpoint. But we're best known and well known for our work within Google Workspace, Microsoft 365 at that cloud application layer. And that's where we'll segue and talk for the next 30 minutes or so more about that type of focus. But it won't be just limited to that. We're going to talk about all these different layers and hear what our panelists have to say about that and what's their take on that. So with that said, I'm going to reintroduce my friends here today, our Oklahoma contingency. It just happens to be with Sam and Robert. So gentlemen, we'll kind of do this in a little bit of round robin format, and feel free to chime in as we get into each area. But as you've introduced yourself, and we were talking a little bit offline in preparation for today, it's that time of year where we're at the end of July. Today's July 31st. Can't believe June, July flew by like that. We're getting real close to the start of a new school year. So I guess let's start with you, Robert. When does your school, and it might be the same across Oklahoma, but Robert, when does your school start back up? When do the teachers report back, and then when do the kiddos report back?
So our school actually starts the 15th of August, so it's coming up here pretty soon, and teachers report 3 days before that. So we're getting ready right now for that to take place. So yeah, it's coming soon.
It's getting close. And Sam, are you in the same boat?
Yes, students return on the 12th. Teachers come back on the 7th, although some teachers haven't left. They've been here all summer, it seems. But yeah, it's coming up. Yeah, like you said, June and July. Where did it go?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I know in my household, we always kind of dread, August, because it means, to us, it means the end of summer, because my spouse, she's in elementary education and the digital media side of things, 2 school-age children. Although this year, I've got my son going off to college for the first time. But even college, where he's going to college, we move him in on the 12th. And my little girl is going to be in 8th grade, and she reports back to school on the 12th as well. So it's only a couple weeks away, and it's just amazing how, to me, I'll get on my soapbox for a minute here. We're in 2 states where it's hot and dry, and I mean, they say the dog days of summer. Some of the hottest days we seemingly get are from the end of July through the middle of September. I'm sitting here thinking, why wouldn't we just start school after Labor Day? And I don't know. I know there's lots of reasons why they probably start now and we get out as early as we do. But yeah, I still just can't seem to get used to that. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about, as we were chatting offline, cybersecurity projects or cybersecurity and safety, things that you guys have either been working on already or you've maybe implemented this summer. In your experience, what are some of the most common cyber threats that your district prepares to face or deal with, as you come up on a new school year? So, Sam, I'll start with you. We'll go with our hair club first.
Okay. All right. And I did my hair for this webinar. So, yeah, put on extra shine. Like we were talking earlier before we went live here. Some of the biggest things I see from students are obviously VPNs, and I think Robert said it earlier, and I don't want to steal his thunder, but phishing attempts. It's so fast. It's so much. We have these emails that I get it. I have a specific email set up where the teachers, even students they can send it to me. They can, a lot of it's to staff. They say, hey, I got this email that's, says so-and-so, I need you to change your banking account information where it's just bold attempts. But that seems to be probably the most prevalent one, would be the VPNs and the phishing attempts. It is almost a daily thing. And I've had more than one, oh yeah, I guess I will click that link and put in my credentials for whatever it is. And you just want to go over there and take their computer away and say, here's a nice yellow notebook you can use from now on, but you can't. So yeah.
So VPN usage, phishing, okay. Robert, I know phishing was on the tip of your tongue. Robert, what are some other areas in addition to phishing, maybe on your end?
Yeah, well, I think that we see mostly those phishing attempts. And one thing that we've done, and I think probably a lot of people do this, and it doesn't always help, but use your mail platform. This, if it's an external user, that you put some kind of warning on there, hey, this is not from us, because we get a lot of those where there'll be an email and it'll say your superintendent with their name. Of course, the email is not from your superintendent. It's an alternate email address, but some people really still get fooled by that. And it's been a kind of a training of trying to teach users, hey, look for these things. If it says it's external, don't trust this email address. That means, don't trust the email address. And so, I mean, I think that we're getting better. We did have an incident this last summer, a couple weeks ago, where someone clicked on a link from any outside email because it was to our SROs, and the police department had been compromised, and they sent it out. And one thing that was interesting about this particular attack, though, is they clicked on a link, and that the threat actor was able to log in with that account bypassing multi-factor. And we still haven't really figured out how that was done, because the user did not put any credentials in, just clicked on the link. And but anyway, we use managed methods to kind of find those compromised attacks, compromised accounts, and disable them. And we're able to mitigate that pretty quickly, which is the great thing about managed methods cloud security, is doing that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
I guess the ultimate thing is, we're all paranoid about ransomware. I think it can get in through emails, but that's the thing that keeps me up late at night is, oh no, that thing you said about it's not if, it's when. Just don't want that to happen to us, and thankfully it hasn't yet, but good.
Yeah, and I don't mean to be the doomsdayer. It's just, it seems like that's the prevailing wind that most folks have, is that it's not if, it's when, and therefore we need to prepare. We can't just put our head in the sand and hope it doesn't happen, because then you're not prepared for it.
Right.
100%.
Speaking on the phishing front, just just out of curiosity, there's lots of different types of trainings and ways. Do you have, Robert, do you have like a planned, and I don't want to let the cat out of the bag in case any of your team members are listening, but do you have planned phishing training exercises that you lay out here at the beginning of the school year? And if so, are they announced and it's like group training, or is it kind of let's try and catch them off guard and surprise them?
Yeah, and we we contemplated using KnowBe4 like 2 or 3 years ago, and it's pretty expensive. And
It is.
the only thing that we do really is send out emails frequently with like examples and say, hey, these are the things to look for. Don't click on it. But no, we don't have any organized way of sending out like a KnowBe4 service of some kind. I had heard that Fortinet had something similar to that wasn't as expensive, but we're not utilizing that either. But so no, I guess to answer your question, I rely on just kind of sending those emails out and trying to warn users, which works some, but yeah.
Got it. Okay. Sam, for you, same question. Do you use a service? Is there an organized plan?
It's almost identical to what David said. I got a quote for KnowBe4, and great service. It's just, I couldn't justify, well, I mean, I can justify it, but the powers that be didn't like the cost of it, unfortunately. But I did use the KnowBe4 as just like, send out a free
Right.
test or whatever. And unfortunately, the test that was sent out went to everyone's spam folder, so they didn't see it. So it was almost kind of pointless there. But what I have done the past start of the school year, the 23-24 year, for professional development for the teachers, I had put together just like a 30-minute class, if you will, with examples of phishing stuff, of spear phishing attempts or whatever, and it went over really well. And what I do periodically is kind of similar to what David said, is that I'll send out, hey, this is an example that came in when what we're seeing in a lot of cases are somebody will go to our website, and we have it where you can message someone on our website, or you can email them. And so they'll message, the treasurer, for example, and they'll get a name of somebody else off the website. They'll say, hey, this is, John Smith. I need to change my banking account information, like I was talking about earlier, to this. So they're just, trying anything. That's happened actually a lot. And then we've also seen suspicious login attempts, and ManagedMethods is very, very good about doing that. I just got one earlier today. Suspicious login attempt. You go and you research it. Like, nope, that's not right. So you change that password and wait for the person to contact you, the teacher or the student or whatever, saying they can't get into their email. So, but yeah, that's what we do as far as spam and phishing attempts is, like David was saying, just that constant keep it on people's minds, at the forefront of their minds.
Well, and speaking of the forefront of the minds on some of the things you guys are talking about, gotta love, crowdsourcing. I love the participation of our crowd out there, folks, sharing out there. And I was going to mention some different alternatives because you mentioned KnowBe4. A real popular one that we're hearing a lot about is our good friends from the, from CyberNut. Oliver used to be, everybody knew him from Nutcase, protecting your devices. And they have brought forth a new organization called CyberNut. Dean, thanks for that shout out. That's a good reminder. Also, some friends of ours in the Pacific Northwest, a company called Drip7 that also does training. Someone else here is mentioned, check out the San Diego County Office of Education. They have a solution called Red Herring. So gotta love the crowdsourcing. Cheryl, she shared out their InfoSec IQ training. That's very good. Of course, reminder to everyone about all sorts of great public resources like MSISAC, etc. So, yeah, I thought I'd insert those in there because you mentioned, both of you, you mentioned different options. And in your case, Sam, you might be getting a bunch of folks, hey, Sam, you wrote a program. Are you willing to share that with people? So you might be asked about sharing some of the resources you've created. Even Robert here is probably already emailing you going, hey, share with your buddies across the state here. Well, definitely for certain, when we talk about this topic, you talk about ManagedMethods and what we do with you with our Cloud Monitor product to help identify compromised accounts and potential phishing. I go back to those examples that I shared earlier with the audience on the slide deck, the Singularity MD attacks. I mean, these were a whole new breed that many people hadn't thought about. It was the idea of, wait a minute, a compromised account, somebody came in through a kiddo's account, and then they started doing lateral phishing, meaning they just started going, hey, where can we go with this compromised credential? How far can we get? What kind of flimsy file sharing behavior and rules do these organizations have set up? And this has been a common symptom we've been talking about for years here at Managed Methods, and that is being able to monitor what, who has access to what, where is, logins happening, when are they happening, what kind of access do they have through shared drives, OneDrive, SharePoint, Teams, Google Drive, you name it. And that was really in the common situation. And I'm not trying to pick on those schools, but anyone that's heard me present at conferences before on the 5 fundamental audits, this is areas that we preach and talk about all the time. That, look, it's not just an email you got to be worried about. It's a file share. It's who's sharing stuff into us. Is somebody coming in pretending to be, like you gave that example, Sam, where, hey, looks like a file share from a legitimate source, and then somebody clicks on it. And next thing they know, like, wait a minute, what's all of a sudden uploaded or shared in our environment? So always something we have to be conscious of. So let's kind of continue along on this thread. So you guys talked about some of the different things you got going on. Are there any specific new projects that maybe you've implemented this summer in preparation for the upcoming school year around cybersecurity, data protection, threat prevention, etc.? Robert, do you want anything specific?
Sure. I'm trying to think of things that I've done specifically this summer. Probably not, but we have tried to make a lot of strides as far as just making sure the things that we need are in place. Just basic stuff, two-factor authentication. I mean, I think some of these things are becoming like, okay, everyone's got to do it, but just making sure we have those things in place. Locking down extensions on Chromebooks, so only approved extensions work. Like I said, the appending of email warnings on emails that come out that look suspicious. I'm sure you can do this on Google or Microsoft, but like if there's certain words in the email, like password reset or something like that, you can put in there a more stern warning and say, hey, make sure that whatever this is legitimate. And of course, like it's weird because the change that has happened in the last 10 years from like used to be I only worried about firewall security and updating your servers and making sure your students aren't hacking to this huge cloud possibilities. Like even if you have your shared drive set right, you have to be mindful that a teacher could take a document and share it with everyone on accident. I mean, it's the kind of stuff that you're responsible for, even though it's an end user that's doing it. But a lot of the things that we implement are through managed methods. So I have all the notifications turned on, even if I think that they're going to be too many. The Social Security numbers leaving the district, if it's credit cards leaving the district, I want to know about it. So, I mean, those are the things that we have in place. Of course, you have I also do free stuff like group policy application blockers, no unapproved apps run on Windows machines either, and try to mitigate as much of that kind of stuff as I possibly can, and utilize the things that we have that are free and available to us. And on top of that, add on Managed Methods platform, which helps a lot. And of course, yeah.
And of course, you mentioned you're going across both Google and Microsoft in your district. Now, is there, within your, let's start just on your Google Workspace side of things, do you still allow the kiddos to share things in and out of the district, or do you have a certain cutoff, just where you've maybe put a walled garden around, say K through 5, or just out of curiosity?
So we do age-based stuff on both sides. So like as far as email goes, primary, nobody can email outside the district. You receive an incoming email until 9th grade. Same thing with file sharing. But at that point, we're just relying on managed methods to, we allow sharing, but we kind of know about what's happening at that high school level.
Okay. Sam, you kind of chuckled when he shared some of the alerts and notifications.
Well, it's funny. I'm glad I'm not the only one that does that. I literally have, I think it's almost all the notifications turned on, because I get emailed so much. That's that's one of the first things I do in the morning is I come in, look at my email after I get my coffee, look at my email, and I just look through the managed methods one. And I mean, some of them I could probably, fine tune it a little bit more. So it's not searching for, and managed methods does a really good job. Like they'll call or they'll email and say, hey, let's, we haven't talked to you in a little while. Let's set up a time to, kind of relearn, if you will. And boy, I jump all over that because you can use this every single day, the program, but there's always something new to learn. And so they help me kind of fine tune it a little bit more, but I still leave it somewhat wide open to where, if there's, like the word hanging or whatever, or anything like that, it flags it. And so then I can go in and look at that. But yeah, I get notifications just like Robert does, because I want to see those notifications, because if you, one of those notifications could be something serious, I'd rather err on the side of caution than not.
Right.
But we kind of do the same thing. That I lost my train of thought. It's gone. That was it.
Well,
All right.
I
Thanks
can,
for
I can hear my customer success team. They're just cheering out shouts of yay for you, Sam, and Robert. Reminding people that yes, our all the complimentary training and audit checks that will come in and help you do and help you fine tune. And just for audience members that maybe are not familiar with managed methods, what Robert and Sam are referring to, receiving alert notifications from managed methods, is that we're a 24/7 monitoring platform for your workspace and 365 environments, all email, file shares, etc. And you can set it up to have our product alert and notify you, or you can have our product set up to alert and notify and also take automated remediation. So when we look at that, let's kind of dive into that a little bit more. Both of you obviously are users of our cloud monitor platform in your environments. You have alerts, notifications, some automation things set up. What are some examples maybe from this past school year of maybe student safety and or maybe cyberbullying, cyber threats, or inappropriate material? What do you, either one of you, have any specific examples that came to mind that managed methods uncovered, and what was the route to correct that action after the fact?
I do have an example. I don't want to jump in front, Robert, if you have something.
No, go for it. I got some too, but I'll wait.
Okay. Well, I'll start then. Yes, it was in. It goes without saying. Our end goal is teaching the students and making sure they're safe. I mean, that's, if you look at it from a business standpoint, the students are our product, that we put out. And but we did, without giving too much detail, there was something that came through the email to me, and it said, and it was late in the evening too. And I always have my phone with me. It makes my wife kind of frustrated with me sometimes, but it's always with me. So I get this notification by email. I look at it, and it's the student has typed in, is searching something that makes you concerned for the student's safety. And so I immediately start researching. I get more information, and I immediately call our school counselor, our school SRO, or our SRO, and principal, assistant principal, all that kind of stuff. And this student was very much so considering moving to the next level on what they were wanting to do to themselves, harm themselves, obviously. So that right there, like I've said to other people, that right there, that one instance paid for managed methods, hands down. Because if that student is safe, I don't care what this product costs. It was worth it to save that student. So that's 100%.
Thank you for sharing that. And these are obviously the the negative side effects of a platform that sees everything, but it's the positive side effect of that, and that we can detect things like this and help expose that. And yes, there's consequences that are involved in that, and sometimes it's puts more strain and pressure on you and Robert and the rest of our IT friends here in this audience today. But it, like you said, I'd like to coin that: teach and safe. That's our mission in the schools, because the product is K through 12. These children that are under the age of 18, they're with us in our schools, and it's our job to educate them and prepare them for the next level. But as long as they're with us, it's our job to first and foremost make sure they're safe. So, Robert, you've got an example?
Yeah, I would just echo what Samuel said. I mean, it's and actually we did a trial period, which I would encourage everyone to do, because it's I'm assuming you guys still do that, but where you have a time period where the program is implemented before you purchase it. And we just saw that sold it for us, because we had an incident where a student that was a foster student was emailing back and forth with someone from like Minnesota. It was like a predatory kind of thing, and we actually had to bring in law enforcement. And when you have something like that happen, and it just kind of, hey, this is an important tool. If we didn't have this, we would have had no idea that was taking place. And so it's just a really good. And of course, we have these kind of incidents happen all the time with inappropriate stuff. One thing I will say that's great is that you can also configure it not to notify just you, but like in our situation, we have it to, if they're a high school student, it goes to all the high school administrators and their counselor. And I've gotten to the point now, any of those student-based warnings, I let the schools handle it, and I don't really get involved. I'm only looking at the staff leaking kind of incidents.
On these same lines, is third-party apps still a big concern for both of you? Even though you now have managed methods in place, you of course had, Google had made some changes, but third-party apps still seems to be a big area that, no matter what, when we're talking to customers, working with prospects, it still tends to be a eye opener. Like, whoa, I did not realize we have this many things trying to connect through an OAuth token into our environment. So on that note, when we talk about types of cyber security or cyber safety situation, because sometimes the third-party app is a situation of almost like a shadow IT. What does this unknown app have access to in terms of data? But also it's sometimes inappropriate. We still see things like OnlyFans and Tango and Wiz and all these other types of apps that are out there. And not to make light of it, but just even when I was at a conference a couple weeks ago, I was doing a state conference in Missouri. Shout out to the guys at Midwest Tech Talk. Great event, by the way. In my presentation, I had so many people raising their hands saying, yeah, your product detected OnlyFans with a staff account, 6 weeks ago. It's like, so let's shift gears a little bit there and talk about another kind of threat landscape. And what's your take on that? We'll stay with you, Robert, and then we'll jump over to you, Sam.
Well, I think that for the student side, the Google changes this last year were probably really significant, because pretty much it kind of forced us to specify what we want the students to use. I also, again, what Samuel said about Managed Methods is great about emailing me and saying, hey, it's time to do a checkup. And so generally when we look at those apps, we usually, it's been pretty clean the last couple of times, but initially you see a lot of those. And that's a strange app to have those permissions. And so I rely a lot on either using the Google admin or Managed Methods to just kind of not allow certain apps or certain types of apps and so forth. But it's a good tool.
Right. Sam, any specific examples there?
Well, I laughed at the OnlyFans thing because I got a notification that over the summer, I just like, why? The student, the elementary school students trying to sign into an OnlyFans account using their school account. I'm like, are you think, it's just blows my mind. But that was one of the things that the customer service when they did that, I believe he called it an audit check or whatever, where they basically call, set up a time, say, hey, let's go over some stuff. And it was during one of those that the gentleman took the time and said, hey, have you seen, or can we look at what apps you have being blocked with, from student and staff accounts being used? Can we go over that? And sure enough, that he showed me how to block all of these different apps, and a lot of them are texting apps, communication apps. There are so many, and these kids, they're smart. These kids are stinking smart, which is great, but it's not. So and so that's where managed methods really helps, and obviously the Google, disabling those third-party apps, removing those permissions like that. But there's so many of those, but yeah, I love it, and I get these notifications as well. There again, the notifications, so and so, or this student or this staff member attempted to text now app or whatever, and it revoked access, or for like Fetch, the receipt scanning app. I have that blocked for students, but then like teachers, it's like a warning, like, hey, be aware that you're using your school email account or whatever. So but yeah, I absolutely love that part of it. It's almost it's make you roll your hands like this, like let's see what they tried to do today. I love it. I love it.
So, again, appreciate some of the folks in the audience sharing some, obviously I recognize some customers sharing some of their examples, and sharing that stuff. And then Elaine, I'll let you know, go ahead and send an email to support, and the team will help you with one of those audits and check that out. As I look at the clock, we got about 10 minutes or so left here. Share out to the audience. Anyone in the audience, feel free to share any comments or questions, or what projects are you working on this summer? Are there things that you as tech leaders out there in your districts, things that you're rolling out? Go ahead and throw them in the chat and share with everyone. There was a question from someone about back on the back on the FCC Cybersecurity Pilot Program. Is this open for charter Title I schools? That's a great question, and I do not know off the top of my head. I apologize. So if you go look at, go out to the Managed Methods guide, that'll take you over to the FCC website that shows you eligibility. I highly encourage you to go check that out. It's as simple as if you just Google FCC Cybersecurity Pilot Program, you're going to find all sorts of good information on that. But then that'd be a question, I think, to raise in the webinar next Tuesday, the 6th. And I put that registration link in there. So gentlemen, as we're kind of wrapping things up, tools, strategies, ideas, obviously you put out there, you both shared the free trial. We highly encourage that. Yes, we still offer the free trial. Everyone that comes on board with us gets involved in that. So anyone in the audience, that you're participating here, take advantage of the free trial. Obviously, if you're existing customers, don't forget you have all sorts of free resources available to you with your subscription, like Robert and Sam talked about. Our customer success team is ready, willing, and able to, help you do quarterly audits. You want to jump on a training call, refresh your memory of something, refresh your team. You got maybe new team members. If you've got principals or counselors or social workers or resource officers that you want to give access to receive certain types of alerts, because it does take a village. It's not just all on you, Robert, or you, Sam, or just the IT departments. We need to involve everyone, especially when it comes to protecting the kiddos. So I guess last kind of thought pattern here, and we'll go with you, Robert, and then Sam, you can wrap us up. Are there any, tips, tricks, tools, strategies, things that you would highly recommend? Obviously, I know you're both going to say recommend Managed Methods. Take a look at Cloud Monitor. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Obviously, Robert, your hat's on the way because Sam, has his hat back there. I see it on the table. So you chose the black one. I have the blue one. I think the gray one's been very popular too for the customers. Anyways, Robert, what other maybe tools, strategies, thoughts right now would you share with the audience as, hey, this is something that's invaluable in our world in terms of preparing and protecting?
And one thing I think can this kind of tie into, you're talking about projects over the summer, and I forgot about kind of a big thing is that we've been working on developing an incident response plan probably the last year and a half, and it's just been one of those things like it's going to be just me doing stuff. So why do I need to put it in an incident response plan? But I'm finding that it's helpful not just for yourself, but for your team members around you and administrators, so they can see, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're looking at. These are the tools we have in place. And it's multifaceted because again, you're talking about trying to cover a student hacker or an outside firewall penetration or a cloud based, but at least getting everyone on the same page. And it's a little bit weird the first time you actually pull it out and use it, but I think that after time you just eventually what the steps are and you can proceed with that. And it's been helpful for us, at least from the communication side to the administration of, these are serious events and we need to be ready because something's going to happen. It could be small, it could be huge, but we need to have something in here that, kind of shows us what we're doing and everyone's on the same page. So I would say that would be one thing that I would definitely suggest everyone do and go with it.
Yes, definitely having a plan in some way, shape, or form, and knowing, and a lot of times too, as somebody brought up last week at the conference I was in, talking about incident plan is also then you have not only a plan ahead of time what we're going to do to try and deal with something, but then also you have the documentation after the fact to say here's what we did and what worked and what didn't work and what would we improve for the future.
Yeah,
thanks, Robert.
Sam? Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Robert. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was just going to say one short thing. That one incident I responded was the first time that we actually, that police department email. And so it was interesting to have that. And I just sent it to everybody and said, this is what we did. And so it was very good, like you're talking about. Thank you.
Good.
I will echo the incident response plan. I've got a friend of mine from Tahlequah Public Schools, Robert, is working one up for me. He's going to get that to me here pretty soon. No, it's absolutely. Yeah, the incident response plan, it's kind of the same thing. Like I've got it, flow charted out. But that's a booger of a thing to put together. I don't know why it's so tough, because I think it's 100% what Robert said. It's like, well, I'm going to be the one that's doing it,
Right.
for myself to do. Hey, yourself do this. But it's like my 5-year tech plan. I've been working on that for 7 years, but yeah, that's the biggest thing. And obviously, I mean, hands down, obviously, you've got to have managed methods. It's not just because they give you free hats every now and then. But no, it really is. All joking aside, it is an amazing tool. I cannot recommend it enough. But the other tools that we kind of talked about it, hit on it earlier, were the getting people out, getting information out periodically, reminding people. Just because the email says it's from your Grandma Shirley doesn't mean it's really from Grandma Shirley or whatever. Mm-hmm. Grandma Shirley's not going to ask for your banking account information or your Amazon password and username and all that. But there are other tools out there provided, and I think someone just put it in the comments, the free government stuff, cybersecurity infrastructure, something or like that, free information there and helps and tips and tricks and all that. But constant information and knowledge to your staff and students. And we also have, like in my district, we have boards out, digital signage, which I know probably a lot of schools have those. But one of the things I'm thinking about doing this, starting this school year, which I better think about it quick because it starts in 2 weeks, is just like, tips and tricks on there about like, don't click on this, don't click on this. It's just helpful information constantly. Get it out there in front of people all the time. And 2-factor authentication. I forgot to say it earlier. That's something that we just implemented. Just now implemented it. And that was like pulling teeth from a cat to get that people to sign up for that. My goodness, that was hard. But that has been one of the best things. And it's almost like a first line defense, you know. Of course, hackers, they're smart too. They're going to find ways around that. But I think that's the number one thing you need to do. Number two, after you sign up for Managed Methods, I should say.
There you go.
I just got myself another
Well,
free hat.
Yeah. Well, the hats have been popular this summer.
It's a nice hat.
We certainly appreciate the kind words, and yeah, I threw in the chat there. You know, when you both brought up incident response templates, I threw out there from the Center for Information Security out there. You know, lots of great resources. I always remind everyone. You know, obviously MSISAC. You've got lots of great state. You know, organizations, of course, COSIN, both national and regional organizations of COSIN, and you know, right here in this virtual room, the two of you and the folks that are attending today's conference, you know, reach out to your peers. There's some of you out there that have vast amounts of knowledge and you do a great job of sharing, and then there's some of you that might be brand new to the roles, or you're new into this space. Make sure you're networking with your peers, the birds of a feather. It does take a village kind of thing. And look at a lot of the resources. We, Managed Methods, take pride and try to be thought leaders and provide lots of great information. Follow our blog post. But, you know, if there's one thing I'll leave you with, and you two have echoed it a number of times, take advantage of our free trial. This is a very, very popular time of year where a lot of districts are activating our free trials and turning them on now to catch the calm before the storm. In other words, let's get a baseline of what's happening in our environment, the 5 key audits, looking at apps, file shares, access control, you know, who's doing what, when, where, and why. Let's see it now, you know, maybe right when the teachers are coming back, and then catch what's going on when the students come back. You activate a free trial right now. We'll run it all the way into September. You'll have a great baseline of what's going on within your Google Workspace, your Microsoft 365 environment. You want to activate a free trial of our content filter product to take it even further and go out onto the browser edge and see what's happening all the way from the browser to the mailbox to the drive file and everything in between. Highly encourage that. So we put that in the chat earlier. Just go to ManagedMethods.com, check out the brand new website, click on the free trial button, and you know, and of course, Robert, make sure you get your incident response plan template over to Sam, so he's got that covered. So.
Appreciate it, Robert.
No problem.
We're approaching the top of the hour. I want to be respectful of you gentlemen's time. I know it's a busy time of year with school starting in a few weeks. If there's any final questions, let me look at the chat window. I don't think so. I think we've got all the questions. Yeah, no, I don't see any more questions in the Q&A or the chat window. So if there's not anything further, Robert, Sam, greatly appreciate you sharing some of the insights today, some of the things that you've come across. We've talked about everything from, you know, phishing training to incident response templates to, you know, looking at, you know, what are some of the, just making sure you have visibility and control into what's going on out there. So, and thanks to our, you know, attendees that have posted some of their thoughts and ideas in the chat as well. So appreciate your time today, Robert, Sam, and, you know, we'll be in touch soon.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.